All right, my next guest here on the NHL show is a man who really needs very little by way of introduction here, because if you've been a regular on this show, you have certainly heard his goal calls on numerous occasions. He spent 13 years in the National Hockey League, including 3 with your New York Rangers. He was drafted in the first round of the 1981 NHL Draft, and he's now the play-by-play voice of the Florida Panthers on WQAM in Miami. Number 24, here he is, Randy Moller. Good afternoon, Randy. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Kev. Always, I love your show.
Thank you very much, buddy. It's great to have you. And you know, we have spent because of our connection to Sid Rosenberg, we've listened to your goal calls on numerous occasions, and they've been very, very popular here. Can you tell us a little bit about how all of that came to be with your unique style of calling an NHL hockey game?
Well, even before I became a play-by-play voice for the Panthers doing color, I always had my own sayings and the way to describe some of the things that are going on to the ice or on the ice. And when I first took over the play-by-play, I had a couple of sayings after goals, especially if the puck went up high. You know, top shelf or Mrs. Moller keeps the peanut butter, and you know, winner, winner, chicken dinner, and a couple other ones. What happened was on our former flagship station, 790 The Ticket, Dan Lebitard from everybody knows from ESPN and from the Miami Herald, and he has his own show on 790.
Sure.
He started picking up on it, and he asked if his fans could make a suggestion for a goal call, and just one. And they asked me if I would blurt it out after a goal, and I said sure. And the rest is basically history, because now it's gone viral, and of course with YouTube and over the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hits on YouTube for the goal calls. What we're doing now is we're back on 560 QAM, and we're getting the fans to make suggestions again. All they got to do is just log on to FloridaPanthers.com. They can click on, they can make suggestions. Kevin, I've got a database of over 2,000. Suggestions for goal calls. Some of them are pretty funny. Some of them, obviously, I can't say. The only thing is I've got a few rules doing this. I just want everybody to have fun. I don't want anybody to take this seriously. We're just having fun. It's entertaining. The fans enjoy it, and it's a way to include the fans. I don't like to get into anything political, racial, anything like that. This is entertainment. We're having some fun. Hopefully the Panthers are going to score lots of goals this year, because I got some great goal calls coming.
Well, speaking of that, does it become a little bit bothersome to you that people have noted you almost too much for the goal calls and not your pure talent? Because let's face it, you are one of the best, if not the best, play-by-play radio guys in the business, and I have no qualms about saying that. So, what about that? Does that bother you at all? That sometimes
no, it doesn't. I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, it would be, to me, it'd be bothersome for myself if like you said, if I couldn't. I'm very proud and I'm very humbled by being one of the 30 play-by-play voices on the radio in the National Hockey League. It's a very valued, a very honored position, and I take it very seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. But I know that my play-by-play can hold up with the rest of the guys in the league, and that this is something that's that I enjoy doing, and it's a way to involve the fans. Hey, this game is all, without the fans, we wouldn't be in business. So we have to involve the fans. They seem to enjoy it, and everybody gets a little bit of a chuckle out of it. Now, the other thing too, I mean, if the Panthers are down 7-1 with 2 minutes left in the third period, and we score, I don't let one rip. I've got more respect than that. And that's the other thing too, is I never want to overshadow, Kevin, what the team is doing or the team on the ice. It's all about the team, and I'm just a sideshow and trying to describe to the fans what is going on. But if I can do it in an entertaining and informal way, and that let them know what's going on. It's a little different fan base down here in South Florida. They want to be entertained. It's not the straight lace that you see play-by-play like you see up in Canada or the Northeast.
Absolutely. We're talking to Randy Moller, the play-by-play voice of the Florida Panthers. And just speaking of that too, what about the fact that you do this by yourself? Does that make it any more difficult or any less, or easy for that matter, that you're a one-man booth for the most part? A lot of guys have partners.
I think, and to maybe be a little bit selfish, it's easier for me, yet it is very busy. One of the reasons why I do the radio by myself is because we're in a non-traditional market, and let's be honest, I mean, the Panthers have not had success on the ice playoff-wise in 10 years, and they're one of the smaller market teams, and we have to work very hard and generate revenue. And that leads me into what I'm saying is why I'm in a one-man booth. Most radio broadcasts in the NHL have anywhere, 10, 12, 14, 18 drops, promos that they do a game. I'm up over 70.
Wow.
So it would be unfair to have a color commentator with me because the only thing that he or she would be doing would be just doing drops or promos anyway. So I may as well do it myself, and I try and do a little of both, obviously the play-by-play, but add the color as well and describe the goals and describe what's going on the ice and that. I don't try and sugarcoat it. Yet it's not my job to be over-critical. We're trying to, promote the sport, promote the team down here in South Florida, a very cluttered, a very competitive sports market, of course, with the Heat, what they've done in the off season, and of course with the UM and the Dolphins, and the Marlins just finished their season. But it's to try and elbow your way into the airwaves and trying to hold an audience and keep them entertained in that with the sport that I do is a challenge in that. But I enjoy working by myself. And I don't think, there's just no room for anybody else in the booth, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I guess it's going to be a little interesting when our mutual friend Sid joins you for a couple of games up at Madison Square Garden.
That's different. That's different. I mean, I always have, and I always encourage, like if we're in somewhere and there's an alumni like a Brian Scrudlin or a John Van Beesbrook or somebody that's around, okay, come on for a period or something and join me. Yeah, Sid is, the one thing about Sid is he is very, very knowledgeable about the game. He's very comfortable on air. He knows the play. He knows the game, so he can add some very valuable information to our listeners about the game as a color commentator. So I'm very comfortable working with him. Plus, he's a blast, and he's out of his mind anyway.
Exactly.
So we all know he's a raving lunatic. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to Sid being with me. When his schedule allows him to. Hopefully, he's going to be able to come up and do a few games. I know he'll be doing maybe the Ranger game and that, but hopefully maybe even opening night.
Oh, nice. I know I've been looking forward to that since you announced you back at QAM. I was hoping he'd do a couple of the Devils games, too.
You know what, Kevin? It's amazing how many people want to come on the air and be on the air with me over the last year. I get. I mean, and people that you wouldn't even think of that would just go, "Can I come on the air with you?" And I go, "No." No. There's only a few that I will allow to come on the air, and Sid is one of them.
We got to look forward to that then. And in the course of talking about that, you had mentioned the off season that the Heat had, and if you look at the off season that the Panthers had, and I recall you saying this on QAM last week. Perhaps the biggest move that the Panthers made was in hiring Dale Talon. Talk a little bit about Dale's presence with the team and how it's going to change the culture of the Panthers.
Well, we describe Dale's hiring as the same thing as when Pat Riley came down to the Heat, Bill Parcells came down to the Dolphins, and that the presence that Dale Talon has, he's the architect that put the Chicago Blackhawks back together when they were really broken. They were broken on the ice. Their fan base had dropped, and very not a lot of interest in one of the biggest sports markets. He was the one that put him back on the map. He was the one that built him up. He drafted properly. He built that thing, and of course they won the Stanley Cup last year. So he wants to do the same thing here in South Florida. He's asked for patience. It's not you can't snap your fingers and overnight go from a team that had 77 points up to 100 points. It's going to take some time. I think our fans realize that. Right. We've got a lot of draft picks. We've got a lot of young players, but it will take some time. They're hoping to make the playoffs this year, but if not, the biggest thing is to see the the light at the end of the tunnel and see that this team is going in the right direction, going with good young players, talented players that can grow together like the Chicago Blackhawks did. We've seen it as well, Kevin. We saw the Washington Capitals bottom out years ago. We saw the Pittsburgh Penguins bottom out. We saw the LA Kings, the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, all these teams that have bottomed out and then they've started coming back up. Like that is what the Florida Panthers want to do, and that hopefully it's going to be sooner than later, and hopefully it's only a couple-year process.
Now, do you think that the man to lead the ship with the team is Peter DeBoer? He's had a couple of rough seasons, but from every indication, he's a very, very solid coach. Everybody seems to love the man. Will he be the guy to lead this team back to the playoffs, do you think?
I think so. You know, and I have no qualms about saying this. Coaching is not the problem with this hockey club.
Yep.
It's talent, and it's, you know, I mean, let's be honest. The team and has admitted, I mean, we've made some horrible decisions, drafting and signing and maybe some questionable trades over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons that have put this team in the position that it's in. You can't go back. The past is the past. Pete DeBoer is a good coach. He's a great teacher. He communicates well with both young and older players. Coaching is not the problem, and it hasn't been. So I kind of take him out of the equation as far as he's more the solution than the problem. That's for sure.
Got it. We're talking to Randy Moller of the Florida Panthers, play-by-play man. Randy, just a couple more on the way out here. You spent 3 seasons of your career with the New York Rangers. We got a lot of Ranger fans who are listening to this program here. Tell us what it was like to play in the greatest setting in the world. I guess what people would say that, you know, they always call it the world's most famous arena. What was it like playing in New York, Randy?
It was exciting. It was really exciting, and in my first year, you know, and going into the playoffs and beating the New York Islanders and that. Very exciting playing in the world's largest market. Unfortunately, injuries kind of sidelined me for a lot of time as well. And then I was traded the year before they won the Stanley Cup. I had an opportunity to, one of the things that I always treasure playing in New York is playing with some great players. Of course, Mark Messier was there. You know, Tony Granato, Brian Leach. I mean, I played with Ron Greshner, of course, Mike Richter, John Van Beesbrook. It just goes on and on and on and on. I mean, played with some great players there that had unbelievable. Mike Gardner I played with and that. So very proud of that. I wish I could have played in New York a lot longer, but you know what? They had to make their trade, and Ranger fans will realize or know too that they picked up a pretty valuable guy in Jay Wells from Buffalo, who I was traded for and helped them win that Stanley Cup. And there was nobody more happier to see finally end that drought of a cup, winning the Stanley Cup than I was when the Rangers won that cup. It was very exciting for me, for them. It was an amazing time, and I loved living there. It was a fun time. But it's my favorite city. I love going back to New York.
Wow.
And spending some time when we're on the road and stuff like that. And we're going to be able to spend some time there this year.
You know, as a New Jersey Devil fan, that night was probably one of the toughest nights of my life.
Well, the Devils, you've had your Devils have won them a couple times and won the cup a couple times, so share it around. It's a great rivalry. I mean, I love the passion of the Ranger fans, even the Devil fans, Islander fans. It's a great hockey market, and to play in that market and with those 3 teams right there was something special. Well,
speaking of the Islanders, give thanks you are where you are. They have not come up with a contract for a radio station for the 2010-11 season yet, and there's some talk up here that they may actually play the broadcasts on a college radio station out at Hofstra University. So imagine that 2 nights before opening night, they don't have a radio contract with a radio station.
No comment. No comment on that. It's a challenge. I mean, you know, the Islanders have not had the success on the ice, and it's amazing how when the team does not do well on the ice, how it bleeds into the rest of the business, and whether it's ticket sales, whether it's corporate sponsorships, radio deals, TV deals, you name it. It's winning cures a lot of things, Kevin, and you know that.
Absolutely. Randy, I cannot thank you enough. It's an honor for me to have you here on the show, and you're the very first guest we've ever had. It's the debut edition of this particular show, so I cannot thank you enough for coming on with me today.
Well, we'll have to do it again, Kevin. I look forward to it. The only thing is I am so sorry for you that you're good friends with Sid Rosenberg, because that must be very tough. It must be very tough.
It causes me to, it's a lot of sleep loss, that's for sure, because I'm getting calls at 2 in the morning. Randy, thank you so much, man.